A very warm welcome to our attendees and thank you so much for joining on Surety's exclusive session on how to build a growth team. This event is exclusively designed for businesses and startups. As you know, there is a lot of buzz going around growth hacking, which has come out as a concept having a lot of potential to take businesses to greater heights. I'm Anushri Gitesh, your moderator for today from On Surety, and our speaker for today is Mr. Udayan Valvekar. He is the co-founder of GrowthX, and Udayan is also the founding member of Growth Team at Razorpay. Thank you so much, Mr. Udayan, for taking your time out, and I'm sure that our audience is looking forward to the session.
Hey, thank you so much. Super excited to be here. Thank you so much, Anushri. Everyone, folks, you can just call me UD if it's easier for you. I'll rename myself as well right here. But I'm super excited to talk about growth in general. I know there's been a lot of buzz around growth hacking, and people that know me closely know me that I was doing growth probably before it was cool, right? So the structure of the conversation essentially is going to be more around really fundamentally understanding how to look at growth and then how do you really set up the right team. And I know a lot of people over here in this call are today, like, some of them are on early scaling stage, mature scaling, right? So we'll talk a lot more about here. How does that change? And let's say if you're a seed stage startup versus, let's say, a mature scale startup, right? And at the end, we'll take all your questions. So with that being said, let me just quickly share my screen. All right. You folks can see my screen, right? Cool. All right. So let me give you a quick introduction about myself, right? I started my growth journey way back in 2008 and 9 when I was basically consulting various startups in the Bay Area. After that, I moved to Sukrati as their first growth PM, built out the entire product there, scaled it to a couple of million ARR, moved to Razorpay. I was the first growth hire at Razorpay. So built the entire growth team from we were one single business line that's just payments, and now that we have three business lines, over 10 lakh merchants. I joined them when they were a couple of thousands, right? So built the entire growth team there that worked across all of these three business lines, across different functions, across acquisition, monetization, you name it, right? And something like non-work related about me is that I love endurance sports in general. I just love marathon sports, like some sports which are like sprint oriented. I like endurance. I'm like an endurance cyclist. So I keep cycling 200, 300 kilometers all the time. Right. So let me quickly talk about GrowthX as well, about the company that I started. So GrowthX, essentially, you can think of GrowthX as an online Harvard, right? It's basically a Harvard for the internet first world. And the way what GrowthX, if someone asks me, right, like you talk to any of our alums, they'll tell you like hundreds of things. But if I have to tell you what GrowthX is, right, GrowthX essentially is like a place where you have the Bangalore ecosystem plus recreated online, right? And where top people, right, from any company that you name it in this ecosystem, seed stage startups to public listed startups, right? You have product marketing and founder folks coming in for long-term 12-month goals to grow their company, right? That's what GrowthX essentially is. Um, the way the format of GrowthX essentially runs is it's 5 weeks of live sessions where a practitioner comes in, talks to you, does case study teardowns. You're put into actual real growth team into a capstone project, and then you have a community that really helps you scale for life, right? What's in it for you? I want this session to be a lot more insightful for you as well. Like for example, obviously we're going to talk about growth teams, but the best way to really learn something is to write about it, right? So let's do something. uh, Throughout this session, I would urge you folks to write your takeaways, right? So write your takeaways around the session, around growth teams, of what you're finding insightful, right? Pay really close attention. It's a very intense session, and the top posts, right, that we get across, let's say Twitter or LinkedIn, they'll get a 10,000 rupee scholarship in GrowthX, right? So you can just tag GrowthX underscore club or on Surety, right? And the top post will get 10,000 rupees off, right? Cool. With that being said, let's quickly start. Um, and before we start, I have like a lot of questions to the audience. So I would expect a lot of the chat to be buzzing. All right. So just a heads up about that. Second. All right. So currently, I just want to understand very quickly. what do you work as? Like, what's your function? Are you in product? Are you in founder, marketing, analytics, design? Where are you? So that I understand, like, how do I really cater to this audience, right? Would love to understand that. Marketing, a lot of marketing folks. Founder. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. A lot of marketing folks here. Marketing to be founder, all the best. Analytics. Interesting. Everyone, I just would want to understand. There are like 50 odd folks. Let's go. Yeah. So tech, there are few tech folks as well. So few product folks, a large chunk of founder and marketing folks is what I can sense. That's awesome. Awesome. Great. I think it's going to be a great session for all of you folks. Founder's office, great. Abhilash would be product, all the best. Cool. So, and the second question for you is, at what stage is your startup in, right? So let's say if you're finding product market fit. So just tell me if you're finding product market fit, early scaling or mature scaling. And the way you want to think about this is, if you are acquiring a lot of users today, but you have lower retention, you're in product market fit, right? And like you're finding product market fit. Early scaling is now you have decent retention and you really want to double down on acquisition. Typically Series A plus companies are in this stage, right? And in mature scaling, you're already a market leader, but now you're expanding different business lines and stuff like that. Finding PMF. Okay. Interesting. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in finding PMS. Super interesting. It's definitely like a very crazy time. Refining, early scaling. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Ram says early scaling as well. Joseph says early scaling. Great. Great. All right. So I think most of you folks are in either finding PMF or early scaling. And I think this is going to be valuable for you. Super valuable. And I'll also talk about how do you really think about growth at early scaling versus mature scaling, right? How do you think about the team essentially, right? Cool. All right. And the last question, I promise I'll be talking in as well. But the last question to you folks is, do you have a dedicated growth team today? Just say yes or no. Yuvraj says no. Don't worry, Yuvraj. Yes, no. Okay. Abhilash says no. Interesting. Very interesting answers. No. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think for 60% people are saying no, and 40% are saying yes. Hopefully this conversation is going to be beneficial for the people who are saying yes to really scale their teams. And for no, I think you'll really start off with the right foot on how do you should even think about a growth team, right? Cool. So what to expect in the next 60 minutes? 60 minutes, it's going to be an intense conversation. I'm going to keep 15 to 20 minutes just talking about questions from you folks, right? I want to talk to you. First of all, growth hacking. Why the hell is it so popular, right? How do you really look at growth? People have wrong misconceptions about growth. They think growth is doing, I don't know, acquisition, right? Then how, once you understand about how do you really look at growth, you want to talk about how do you build a team that can actually help you get there, right? Then structuring that team, right? Let's not kid ourselves, right? Structure inside an organization is very important. Where they report to, who are they, what the team is made out of, who are the hiring managers, who are these people, right? And then operationalizing, this is the key aspect, right? You can have all the great structures, but operationally if the team is not set up for success, it's kind of useless, right? So let's talk about growth hacking. I'm sure everyone knows about growth hacking, and everyone remembers Hotmail. Anyone who does not remember Hotmail probably is a little too young for this audience, but we would love to know. I'm sure everyone knows Hotmail, right? And Hotmail back in the early 2090s, right? What they did is this really crazy hack around, an engineer actually did it, is in the signature, they would add PS I love you, get your free email at Hotmail, right? And this very simple signature, such a simple signature, drove about crazy amount of users for them, right? And not just crazy amount of users, Hotmail had 12 million users, all right, when they got sold to Microsoft. Let that sink in. 12 million does not sound today a lot, but when they sold, there were only 70 internet users in the world. So imagine something that you did drove drove 1/6 the world's population to your product, right? So it's crazy. And obviously, this got a lot of attention, right? Um, and then you also have the likes of Airbnb and Craigslist. So just FYI, folks, Craigslist was way bigger than Airbnb. Craigslist was like online yellow pages, right? You could find anything. What Airbnb did is that they basically enabled anyone to come to Airbnb to post both at Airbnb as well as Craigslist, right? And they did it via an open API URL, which was a bug, to be honest with you. But by the time the bug was fixed, it was too late. Airbnb was across Craigslist, right? Everywhere, whoever was posting on Craigslist, they had an Airbnb link to them. And obviously, this drove a lot of traffic for Airbnb as well. But the fundamental thing that I'm trying to show here is I'm not going to teach you to do this, right? It might seem counterintuitive, but learning these things actually is not going to get you growth, right? Why should we move away from growth hacking is my second thing. I'm like, okay, this is going to seem very counterintuitive, right? These hacks will not work for you because they're moonshots, folks, right? They're very short term in nature. Like for example, now the signature is overused, right? So you can't do it. If you do a signature, you're not going to get that traffic. So they're very short term in nature. And they're not repeatable, right? They do not have the same effect when you repeat it. So these are moonshot one-off cases that sound really sexy, but in real world, when you go back to your office on a Monday morning, it's not going to work, right? It's easy to sell hacks, by the way, in online courses. Very hard to actually replicate that success for yourself. Yeah. And the third one is hacks are just not nutritious for your company, right? They just feel good. Think of it the way when you're hungry, right? You're really hungry and you know that the right thing to do actually is to get a meal, right? A bag of chips is going to make you feel good but not nutritious, right? It's very short term. That's the same way I think about hacks, basically, right? And these kind of hacks, these examples are rare as moonshots. Trust me, if it happens, it's purely by luck. All right. And you don't want to rely on luck for your company, right? The biggest myths in startups that I see is that you can hire one single growth hacker that will magically scale your business, right? If this was the case, then why would you go and get funding from a seed? Like, all VCs would just be like, hire one growth hacker along with our funding. It's coming in the package, right? That's not how it works, right? And a lot of times founders, because they're so busy in our own day-to-day, we really need that one person who can think properly around growth. So growth hackers typically where we're trying to fit. That's not something that I highly discourage to do, right? Stop looking for a superhero to solve growth and move away for an org-wide growth strategy, right? Let me talk about why I'm saying an org-wide growth strategy instead, right? I'm going to get you a sneak peek into what real growth is, right? I'm just going to quickly share my screen to that other one. Right. You folks can see my screen now. Yeah. So I'm going to walk you folks on a macro level what really growth structure is, right? So there are three parts for making any business sound: shipping a product, finding product market fit, and growing that product. Shipping a product is all about understanding users' pain points, validating that, finding out new solutions, and then building an MVP. We're not going to talk about shipping a product. It's completely a different ball game, right? And then finding product market fit is again launching it, getting feedback, relaunching, iterating. Let's talk about growing a product because that's why we are all here. Now, growing a product is all about growing revenue, and revenue is a function of two things, right? Revenue is a function of number of paying customers as well as the lifetime value that you get from them. Paying customers is a function of what? Paying customers is a function of total users that you have and how many of those total users will actually become paying customers. Simple. Now, total users is a function of new users, existing and churned users. And the way you can look at new users is acquiring new users or onboarding them. What does that mean, right? First, when you're looking about acquiring new users, you want to think about, hey, is my product ready for acquisition right now? Am I going to deep dive into all the channels that we know of: organic, content, referral, ads, product hooks, right? And how do I really have the right decision framework to scale these in terms of cost, effort, lead time, right? Onboarding these users, understanding the intent. You get the idea, right? this is just on new users, right? This framework. By the time you get to existing users, trying to understand how do you engage users, how do you really look at the frequency of people, customer segmentation, use cases, how do you look at churned users, right? How do you look at different kind of churn, and how do you then look at conversion, right? Perceived value. There is so much to do, and we have not even gone completely opened up the entire graph, right? So what I'm trying to say is growth, one single person cannot own all of this, which is growing the product, right? It's fundamentally impossible, and to have a very wrong mindset that a single hacker is going to come in and actually grow that. You need an org-wise strategy and the right team to actually do this, right? So let's talk about that team. Cool. All right. So when it comes to a growth team, I'm going to talk about typical team structure, what typically I've seen in most of the companies. And you can tell me if this is your structure or not. Tell me if this today is somewhat like a structure in your company. So acquisition is primarily owned by marketing, onboarding is product, retention is product, onboarding and retention is product, revenue is typically owned by sales, enterprise, and referral is kind of in between, product or marketing, doesn't matter. I want to know in the Q&A right now, in the chat, if this is your current team structure. Does a team structure currently look like this? Yes or no? Amit says yes. Ankita says yes. Everyone, I just want to understand from you folks. Pranay says yes. Vipul, somewhat. It might not be the exact same thing, but it might be in a similar line. This is a very typical team structure across most folks, right? And what happens with this structure is this, right? If you're setting up a growth team, you should think of it the way you look at building an actual sports team, right? So what happens with this team structure is that you have marketing that's going to throw a shit ton of users, and then product is just not going to allow them, right? They're very two different aligned KRs around conversion rate and acquisition, right? And this is, in most cases, this problem arises, right? You'll have this scene from that movie Chak De, if you folks remember, right? It's just a big battle between product and marketing. Growth team is something that fundamentally is trying to change it. It works like a SWAT team. It's a startup within a startup. And the way you should think about this is this, right? A typical growth team has these things at minimum, right? You have either a product manager or a growth lead leading it. You have a marketer, you have a full stack engineer, you have a designer and an analyst. This is a typical growth team structure. But people are like, hey, Yudi, we're not at that scale where we can just have 5 people just for growth. How do I really prioritize, get the right people at early scaling and mature scaling, right? And let's talk about that actually. That's a great point. The job to be done of a growth team is just this. Let's understand what is the job to be done of a growth team, and then let's look at who do you need to hire at early scale, what should be the team size, and all of those things. Yeah. Now, growth team essentially is a loop of the key 3 things. First one is prioritizing what problem to solve, right? What should I look at a daily basis, weekly, monthly, and a yearly basis, right? How do I think through on solving these problems? Is it basis on what email my founder is sending me, or what larger problems are there to solve, right? Third is, how do you really solve the problem, right? What is the way we're going to go about? Third is this product marketing. So this prioritization hypothesis is typically done by a growth marketer or a product manager, right? And then let's say you come up with wireframes, design gets in, engineering gets in, analytics gets in to set up the right experiment, right? You document all these learnings and you identify where you missed out and what could have been improved, and you repeat. This is essentially the key job to be done for a growth team, day in, week in, month in, year in, right? That's essentially how the job to be done of a growth team is. Now, if you want to have the right people for this, the way you should think about is this, right? So PM growth at this stage, a product designer, a marketer, or a full stack engineer at the implementation stage, and an analyst or a user researcher for documenting stuff. But let's look at how it scales at product market fit, early scaling, and mature scaling stage. Because trust me, it is fundamentally very, very, very different. I've worked across seed stage startups. My first startup was about a 4 people company, and the last startup that I worked was a 3,000 people startup. I've seen anything from seed stage all the way to Series D and beyond, right? When you're in early scaling stage, which is product market fit, right? Your team structure will look something like this. Essentially, you'll have three key people: your product manager or a growth lead, two engineers, maybe one is full time, the other is shared resources, and a product designer. This is extremely key: a product designer and a growth lead, right? At early scaling stage, then you'd start having a lot more data to play with, right? And that's when you need a lot more data analysts. You probably need a lot more front end engineers. You need a marketer to come in, a product designer, and all of that stuff. This is by the base framework. Let's say, for example, you're a company like Dunzo. Your growth team will have an operations person in, because the operation is the key part of the entire growth equation that done so, right? If you're an Uber, you'll have people at supply and demand side coming and being part of the growth team, because you can't just grow just user side. You need to understand the supply side mismatch and how to solve that, right? Now at mature scaling stage, now this is when it starts getting a lot more broader, where you have, let's say, a head of growth, senior product managers, growth marketing folks, bunch of designers, because they are now, you're working on onboarding as well as monetization. You're looking at pricing experiments. You're looking at how do we really scale our acquisition, and looking at these multiple parts requires a little bit more diversified focus. And mature scaling stage, your team size is typically 20 plus, right? Now let's also talk about how do you structure teams, because the most biggest challenge that I see here is, hey, if this is being done by the growth team, what is the marketing team doing? And what is the product team doing, right? What's going on here? So how do you really structure teams defines whether or not your product, your team is actually going to be successful or not, right? Cool. So at PMF stage, the number one suggestion I have is that the growth team should primarily and directly report to the CEO or whoever's owning the key revenue number, right? This is absolutely key, that there are no silos or layers between them, right? You can also think about, if let's say this thing does not work for you at PMF, you can have the growth lead report to you, and then the engineers, let's say the front end engineers, reporting directly to the head of engineering, and the designer reporting to the head of design, right? You can have a hybrid structure. However, this is option number two. Option number one is ideal, right? Uh, Second one is at early scaling stage. Again, the key recommendation here is, now you would want them to either report to a CXO or a head of product. I've seen growth teams perform very well in when they report to the product team instead of the marketing team before early scaling. And that's because a lot of the changes that need to be required or need to be product led. Versus, let's say, when you go to mature scaling, growth can have its own org, just like marketing and product has one, right? The second approach again is a hybrid structure, where you would have the individual people reporting up to their key folks. However, one thing to note here, make sure that these engineers or designers are not really reporting to a senior manager. They need to report to the head of engineering directly. The lesser number of layers here in the growth team is key, because you're all trying to chase speed in growth teams, right? Speed is the most important part in a growth team's roadmap, right? And obviously you can also have it much more bifurcated like this. And mature scaling stage, essentially what I've seen is typically they report up to either the VP of product or they report to the entire VP of growth, right? So you can have an integrated system or a hybrid. But mature scaling, integrated doesn't work out that well, because the team is more than 25-30 people. It's better to have a bifurcated stage at this point, right? This is another option for you as well, if you really do not want to step into the toes of other people, right? As a founder, I understand it's not easy to really make everyone report to you. The other orgs might really take notice and that, hey, I'm a leader in this function. Why is this happening to me, right? Now, we spoke about looking at growth. We spoke about what the right team structure. Let's talk about operationalizing a growth team. Now, this is the least sexiest sounding, but the most impactful of all of them, right? One thing that has worked for me, whenever I've gone to any new organization in the last 10 years, I've always come up with a growth vision doc, right? Let me walk you through what I mean by the growth vision doc. As a founder or someone who wants to start or build a growth team, right, in the next near couple of months, this is the first thing that you should do. You should start off with a background. It's a document which tells about, hey, what is the current scenario? Let's say where the company is, where it's trying to go. If it's a Series A milestone, what's that milestone? What are the challenges that exist today for hitting us that, right? Let's say if you want to hit an X number of revenue, these are the three key areas that are going to be the input levers for that. What are the problems that exist today? You then want to talk about the vision for the pod, meaning if this pod comes about, what would be the end vision for it, right? How, think through 5 years ahead, right? North Star metrics. Defining the North Star metric of a growth team is extremely important. If it's, is it conversion rate? Is it success rate? Is it revenue? Is it number of users, right? North Star metrics need to be defined. And this is a guiding light that will actually help the team succeed, right? The other thing that the founder or the growth lead needs to make sure that in the document they really define what growth pod will do versus marketing or product. Very, very, very important to document and define the exact differences, right? You should look at also the working model. Let's say, for example, we get a creative requisite. Who does it? Is it a growth designer or is it a visual designer? Are we outsourcing parts of design, right? Everything from sprint planning to prioritization, the entire working model needs to be described very well for both product, marketing, and design for the growth team, right? Extremely important to get a very key alignment between all the team and stakeholders before you do a growth team. Second is come up with a 2-year probable roadmap, right? You need to come up with a 2-year, minimum 2-year roadmap. And if you cannot come with a 2-year roadmap, by the way, for the growth team, then it's an early sign saying that you're too early for a growth team. You don't need a growth team, right? If you can't come up with a 2-year roadmap, it doesn't need to be concrete. It doesn't need to be followed for 2 years, but at least for the first 1 year, that needs to be a guiding light in terms of what the roadmap is going to look like. And lastly, a 30, 60, 90-day plan for both the team as well as individuals. What is the first win that's needed or expected from this growth team, right? In the 30 days, in 60 days, and in 90 days, right? Cool. Let me summarize very quickly, right? We spoke about how do you look at growth. Growth is a function, cannot be owned by one single person, right? We spoke about how do you really build a right team. Who constitutes in a growth team? Everyone from product managers, designers, marketers, engineering make a growth team. Then we saw, okay, how do you really structure this team at product market fit stage, early scaling, and mature scaling? And then setting them up for success all comes down to the growth lead or the founder having a clear vision for the growth team, right? Everything from the roadmap to how they'll actually solve conflicts within the product, marketing, and growth teams, right? Cool. All right. With that being said, that's all, folks. This is the end. I hope you folks like had a good gist of what a growth team does. If you want to learn more, obviously go to growthx.club. Would love to get a lot more questions now. I want to open up for keep about 10-15 minutes right now for Q&A, right? So think through, get 30 seconds in and really think about what are some team problems that you are facing with, right, today when it comes to growth, right? Articulate them, put them in the chat box, and Anushri will help me get you folks come and ask me the question. All right. Cool. I'm going to stop screen sharing now.
Thank you so much, Udayan, for such an insightful session. So we have got some questions in our Q&A section. I'll just read them out for you. So
Okay.
Ankita is asking, what are the basic qualifications required to become a growth expert? Do they have to be a jack of all trades?
So, Ankita, maybe I can answer live, right? Can you get Ankita?
Yes.
If she's still there.
Yes. I'll try adding her. Hi, Ankita, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Anushri. Hi, Udayan.
Hey, folks. Hey, Ankita. Awesome. So, I'll tell you the way you should think about a growth expert per se is the way you should think about any kind of a role like a product manager, right? So the growth market, they don't need to be an expert or a jack of all trades, but what fundamentally they should be really good at is looking at the macro and the micro. So the understanding what is a micro vision, and at a micro level, what are the input levers to achieve that, right? And typically in terms of skill sets, the way I've seen this work out is that you'll have T-shaped folks, meaning some folks who have a general understanding of different aspects of our, let's say, marketing, tech, product management, and design, and they're experts at a particular topic. And that expertise, that T-shaped, that is getting them that skill level, is what will determine which company they go to. Example, if you had to become a growth person at Pinterest, Pinterest draws its growth a lot from SEO and web more than mobile. So your understanding there will be really helpful as a growth expert. Let's say versus you go to Dunzo, right? A growth lead at Dunzo really needs to understand supply side mismatch and marketplaces, right? And operations. So that's how you would look at fundamentals, and an expertise in a particular area. Does that help?
Yes, got it. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
All right. So thanks, Ankita. So Sujit is asking, what if a team doesn't have enough money to find good talent or hire more members for growth?
So, Sujit, can we get Sujit? I want to talk to Sujit.
Yeah. Hi,
Hey,
Sujit. Are you
Sujit.
there?
Hey, Sujit.
Hi, hi.
Hey, how's it going, man? So, can you articulate this better? Are you saying that, hey, Yuri, I don't have a budget to hire a single person right now to find talent, or like, first of all, first question to you: what stage of the company are you in?
So I'm bootstrapping currently. I'm having 3 members engineer,
Hmm.
2 member customer support, and one testing member. So I am the
Okay, so
person who is trying to
So
grow
you
it.
are the founder and you are
Yeah,
the growth person, right? So fundamentally,
right,
what's
right, right.
important to you right now actually is yourself really getting inside growth. At an early stage, right? I didn't ask this trivia question. At early stages, founders are the growth leads in all companies, right? Until
Right.
let's say you hit about 15, 20 employees or start finding that product market fit. So fundamentally, it's important for you to really understand growth and then get that implemented rather than looking at outside,
Okay.
right? And then nurturing someone internally over the next 6 months to take over that role. That's how
Yeah.
I
So
would think about it, Sujit.
yeah. So I'm actually trying to like learn more of about growth and growth hack. Not hack, but the growth
Thankfully, after the
SEO.
session, really, we change our mentality from hacking to really a structured
Yes, yes,
approach.
yes. So, but actually, I'm looking for growth because I'm being like profitable from last 1 year,
Mhm.
and but the profit is not as much that I can go and hire four, 5 members
So
to
at
grow
this
the
point,
product.
right, until that bridge passes, Sujit, I would say take the onus on you, upskill yourself in it a lot more, and then see if you can nurture someone. Maybe an engineers typically have become really good growth PMs that I've seen. So see if you can nurture someone. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Awesome. All right. The
Thanks.
next question is someone from an anonymous person, so I can't get them. Does a seed stage company require a growth team? Depends. If you've hit product market fit, anonymous attendee, you need a growth team. You would want to use that growth team. Growth team is essentially going to get accelerate the users that you're going to get in the next 2 years, in the next, but in 6 months, right? That's their job essentially. So depends. It's seed stage doesn't matter. Matters on how your health metrics are of the company, right? Cool. Amit asks, need to figure out customer acquisition for offline. What should the structure be? So, Amit, if you have the way you should think about this, right, is acquisition is just one part of it. Let's say in acquisition, there are multiple channels. There is paid, there's organic, there is branding, then there is offline. That is a channel for me, right? So when you're thinking about building a growth team, and if offline is the way you want to go ahead, you would want to get a growth expert in this space and then kind of nurture them to kind of build a team around it, right? That's how I would think about it, because it's just a specific channel. um cool. All right, Rachit asks, how would you define a growth team structure for a creator economy early stage startup like you did for Dunzo and Pinterest? Rachit, can we get Rachit? Very interesting question.
Yeah, sure, Yuli. Just a second. Hi, Rachit. Are you there?
Yeah. Hi, Udyan.
Hey, Rachit. So again, my two questions for you is what
Yeah.
stage of the company is in currently? Um,
So it's quite early stage. We are trying to find PMF as well, and at the same time, we are trying to grow into the creators economy space.
are you
Trying to
pivoting
onboard
towards that,
creators,
or are you building for creators only?
building for creators only for now, but
And and,
definitely
and
like
is
in a
the
long.
product and is the business model around subscriptions?
So yeah, it's essentially about subscription as well, live sessions as well, workshops as well. As
Right.
to how do creators like want to monetize it, they can. So it's
Got it.
quite open on the product, but on the growth side, it's quite early stage. We are working on an agile model, taking feedback from the onboarded creators and developing our product roadmap.
So I think in a case where you are like 6 months out from the product market fit stage, like you have some light there. What I would do is in this stages, at least when I was part of I was the first product manager in multiple companies. What I've done typically is you would want to enable your core product team to have a dedicated amount of input metrics around growth. So when I say input metrics, I'm not talking about revenue, but what are the input metrics to, let's say, experimentation, right? Maybe it's the number of hypotheses generated, number of X, Y, Z. That's how you inculcate that for the first 6 months as and when you're thinking of hiring a growth person. You should actually refrain from hiring a growth person right away because you're still figuring out what is that one thing that's going to work in the creator economy space for you, right? So you would want to refrain from doing that for the first 6 months. Experiment, get that in, and then nurture someone internally. This is something that I have said multiple times. Actually, 99% of times, most growth people come from internally at early scaling as well as product market fit stage. Just because of the context that they have, much better suited to do growth. Because also think about this, right, Rachit? Growth is a team that will step on a lot of toes. So someone inside already that has built credentiality is much better suited to kind of operationalize that than someone new.
Got it. Essentially, what is happening here, Udyan, is that I'm the person responsible for growth. I've been hired recently for it, and I'm just trying to figure out the waters here, and I'm testing the waters here. And because like I'm also trying to build up a team here because like onboarding creators is like a tricky thing.
Yeah,
and it's not that easy to like convince all the creators to just come on board with a new platform. So hiring specifically for it gets like really tricky because
so I think then in that case,
like,
look at what I would not think about hiring right now. I would actually thinking of understanding what works and then hiring.
Yeah. So like if you were to like define like as you did for like Pinterest or Dunzo, like
see, if it's a subscription business, I can give you a typical model. If you want me to give you one, a typical model essentially will have a very content heavy growth team, either on the organic side or on, let's say, and if it's organic, it's not just content but also video and all of those things will probably work a lot more in subscription. But I would need to understand a lot more nuances about your business.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Yuvraj asked us a question about GrowthX. Okay. I'm someone who has just begun their career and will work in account management. Do I want to get growth? What doesn't make sense? Join currently. Yuvraj, I won't answer this right now. What you would do is just go and apply there. If you're the team will help you understand if this is the right fit for you or not. Maybe not the right forum. I would just talk about growth team. Cool. Badal, can you speak to the scope of a growth team? How does it change for a B2B2C proposition where business are channel partners, also subscription? Badal, can you come? I want to talk to you. Hey, Badal.
Hi,
I'm not able to hear you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So I think, so what you're essentially asking is, first question is around the scope of a growth team, and you're trying to understand this whether or not a B2B2C proposition changes because you have channel partners. You're not directly selling to anyone. You're selling it through your channel partners, right?
Yeah, I mean within each channel partner ecosystem to users.
So the way I would think about that, right, is that is just another channel for you. I would think of it in a way that you would think of a B2B company, right? Now you're going to have two kinds of channel partners. One which one channel partner probably gets you 80% of revenue. And then there's a long tail set of channel partners that you want to evolve towards in the coming 3, 6, 9, 12 months, right? I would keep the scope of the growth team for the long tail part of those channel partners rather than the larger channel partners, which are probably much better solved by a sales team.
Got it. And from an analytics standpoint, I mean, given that, you're looking at businesses or corporates, right, as the acquisition, what does that entail? I mean, what kind of analytics do you build around that?
So what kind of analytics do you, I think out there, if you have a really large companies, right, I think analytics there should be qualitative rather than quantitative. right? Because you will not have so many users in terms of enterprises to really draw out good insights from analytics in terms of quantitative data. So qualitative data around insights and talking to them and doing a lot more there will probably be better for you.
Got it. And last question, sorry, but on this, do you have any benchmarks? I mean, is there any company as a playbook that we should look at?
Lots of companies. I think you can look, and if you're trying to evolve to a company that is more long tail, I would actually look at any kind of company that has cracked the CA, payroll, even a Tupperware, to be honest with you, to see what they did, right?
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Adil. So then we have got one question from Vipul Sharma here. What to do in early stages when the product and engineering is already occupied with the feature roadmap? Do we build a team dedicated to this or prioritize it in the existing roadmap? And also he has added in on demand, Uber for X marketplaces. Can you describe when you get a demand supply person in growth team means?
Okay. So first of all, Vipul, it was about asking one question, but you've asked, I think, 6 questions there. So I'll break it down and I'll answer them. So maybe we can get Vipul as well on this thing. So what do you do when you're early stages? So by the way, Vipul, quick, let me break small bubble. This will not change at mature scaling stage also. Your team will always be bogged down with feature roadmap or something or the other, right? It does not change. Trust me, I've been part of Decacon companies. It doesn't change. Now, the way you want to think about it is you want to start small, Vipul. So what you want to do is you want to get, Vipul, are you a founder?
Yes, Yuri.
Okay. So Vipul, the way I would think about it is find an internal champion for you in growth. And you can have a single person growth team with shared engineering resources working on a white space problem, right? Which is not covered today by the product team or the marketing team. Let them show value, see if it works out for you, right? And if it's delivering value, you will be able to really give resources for them automatically and naturally, right? That's how I would think about this, by the way, if you're setting up your team for the first time.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Now you also mentioned, because your end roadmap, you know that you have to build a team, but maybe it starts with one person for 6 months with shared resources in engineering. Then the second question is, in an on-demand Uber for X marketplace, can you describe when you're getting a demand supply person in growth teams means? I don't understand the question here. Can you articulate?
Yeah, so it was actually not when I was about to what kind of demand or supply, because typically demand supply you would see some ops guys or region guys who would, because again you would be expanding, let's say region by region or city by city.
Ops team needs to be part of the growth team in these companies.
Okay.
100%. So Uber's ops team was 20% of the growth team.
That's interesting. I think that's a good benchmark as well.
And if you have, so it depends, right? Like there's a fundamental vanilla water recipe, but for you, your users require then you need to add and subtract from that, but the fundamentals don't change around the product manager, etc. You need to add operations for you or whatever makes sense for you. Even support teams in enterprise cases.
That does make sense. Got it. I think in order to operationalize, what you are trying to say is the ground insights and how to operationalize would be much better, be driven much better if the operations is on board.
Correct. Yeah. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to get a crazy demand person, and then the ops team is going to shout saying that, hey, this is screwing up everything, right? Which will not work for both the teams. So, yeah.
Does make sense. Okay. Thanks, Yuri.
Cool. And I think Devansh asked a completely random question on the font.
Yeah, which font did you use?
Castorial. It's Castorial.
All right. So to our audience, this will be one last question that we might accept. So for the next 2 minutes, if you feel leaving a question, so please do that. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. I think that I answered a good 15, 20 questions. I don't think that...
So Udayan, we have one more question here. Should I focus on raising funding for getting growth, or do you think growth is possible in bootstrap with founders and less people to execute the plan? This is from Sujit.
Sujit, lot of examples around bootstrapped. I don't think I have to emphasize that it works or not. There are some companies that fundamentally require a lot more capital upfront to scale, but there are systematic and sustainable ways to grow as well. You can look at Zoho, you can look at Zerota, you can look at a lot of bootstrap companies. GrowthX is a bootstrap company. And I don't think that it's VC versus bootstrap. There are pros and cons in each, but that it does not mean that bootstrap companies cannot have growth folks.
Yes, but what I feel the difficulty like in executing the whatever plan I get to know say X things that I should be doing, like from your video itself I got to know something that I should be trying in my startup. But the thing the plan fails to work immediately or in a like coming few months because of say I want to execute this build versus building something very critical for the customers that
So
they
Sujit,
are
in that case,
wanting.
you should become, so if you're really, so the question essentially is, hey Yuri, today I want to do a lot of stuff, but I don't have engineering bandwidth to do so. That's the question, right?
Yeah, engineering bandwidth, team bandwidth, yeah. Team
Right.
bandwidth.
So basically in those things, right, you should look at a white space in which you do not require a lot of engineering help. And there are parts of the product that you can kind of start owning on your own. Maybe it's a website that you can start owning. Maybe you can learn and upskill yourselves and really understanding how do you kind of code or just the website part. Just FYI, I am not an engineer, but I can code very well. Right? I'm self-taught. If you really want to prove a point inside the org, because you need to get that early win, saying that, hey, me doing this is actually getting value. Once you show value, that's when you'll actually start getting shared resources.
Okay, one more confusion I have. Actually, I'm a developer myself, and
Perfect.
I put my 7-8 hours actually in development. So what happens is that I don't get to think much or focus much on growth or executing some of the plan.
So
So
if
I'm
you're a
thinking of
dev, then
hiring.
that's even easier, right? What you need to do is you need to look at what's the white space there, which will not affect the product roadmap per se. And you need to start small, Suji, very small micro optimizations part. And the more you do it, the more the team will realize, and you'll get a lot more buy-in to have a dedicated growth team just where you're just focusing on this.
Yes, yes. One more question like here, like just
Last question, Suji.
yeah. So see, either I can upskill myself and hire one person, a tech lead, who can do my job, then I can focus on growth, or should I hire a growth person and I should be focusing on development? So that's a
Think
confusion that
about
I'm.
weaknesses. Think about the current team weaknesses. What is weak right now? Is it tech or is it product mindset? If it's product mindset, hire a growth lead. If it's tech, then hire a tech person.
Oh, great. Thanks for this. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Udayan, for such an insightful session on building a growth team. And I'm sure our audience definitely got the best information that they really needed. To our attendees, thank you so much for joining the session for today. And we at OnSurety are always driven towards providing the best information that you need related to employee healthcare, wellness, productivity, and the employee culture and overall. So thank you so much, Udayan, for taking such an amazing session, and we learned really well out of it. One more thing that I would like to add again, like just a reminder to everyone. So we at OnSurety are having a referral program again. So if in case you are referring OnSurety's healthcare membership to any HR or a founder of a company, so you can stand a chance to win an Amazon voucher for up to rupees 5,000. So I'm leaving a link in the chat section. So let me just give you a quick brief about OnSurety as well. We are a B2B employee healthcare platform, and we offer comprehensive healthcare memberships to from organizations to organizations for the employees. So it is a monthly membership which just starts at rupees 149 per month, and it is designed for all, from interns to freelancers to contractors to permanent employees. And you just need at least 3 members in your team to be eligible for the membership. And when I talk about the benefits, we are offering comprehensive member benefits like health insurance and free doctor teleconsultations, discounted medicines, and a lot of wellness benefits as well. So I'm leaving the link in the chat section, and yeah, please feel free to refer us, and you can stand a chance to get this mega prize out of it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Great talking to you. Thank you, honestly.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, then.
For hosting me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend. Yeah. Bye.